Welcome to my intraoral photography course called Dental Photography Made Easy. This is the second course in track one of my curriculum that covers the basics of dental photography. What I found that dentists typically do when they implement intraoral photography in their office looks something like this. They capture the images on a DSLR camera, take the memory card out of the camera, put it in a card reader, and download their images to their computer and manage the images in a program like Windows Explorer that comes with the computer. Well, that seems pretty easy, but it tends to get a bit more complicated than that. Because when they want to manage the images and do things with them, they tend to use a product something like Adobe Bridge or similar type image management software. And then when they want to enhance, crop, straighten, whatever they want to do to the images, they'll use something like Adobe Photoshop. So what they end up with is a situation where they might have JPEG images or RAW images, Photoshop images, different versions of the same image that they have to deal with and manage. Then when they want to show and share the images with patients, they'll use something like Windows Photo Viewer to do that because it's a very simple application and very easy to use. Well, it gets worse from there because what happens when you need to email an image to your lab or another doctor you're consulting with, put a slideshow together to show images to a patient, create images to upload to your website or your blog or to use in social media? Well, really what happens is you end up with a bunch of different versions of the image that you need to manage, and it becomes very cumbersome and very difficult to deal with. Well, what you're going to see me do in this course, Dental Photography Made Easy, is streamline that process by using some software called Adobe Photoshop Lightroom. And while this is not a course on Photoshop Lightroom, you'll see that it's very easy to use that one product to import your images to one place, manage your images there, and be able to export them for different uses, like easily email them from within the application to other doctors or your dental lab. Create slideshows from within Lightroom to share images with your patients. Output images for use on your website or blog or social imaging, or actually to print images if you need to. You can do all of that from within Lightroom. And because Adobe makes the product, if you do need to use Photoshop and are proficient with that, it links seamlessly to Photoshop and helps you manage the Photoshop files that you create along with the original images that you capture and import into Lightroom. So it makes the whole process much, much simpler. Well, before we get into what we're going to cover in Dental Photography Made Easy, I want to discuss a little bit about what I mean by workflow, because this defines everything that we do within the process that I'm going to lay out for you. So in my case, I would define a workflow as a definable, repeatable process that everyone in your dental practice does. So you do things the same way every time, whether it's just you making dental images or you have a team of people in your office that are making dental images. That provides a lot of consistency and predictability in the process, and everyone knows what they're supposed to do at every point in the process. And the process begins with image capture and ends with the final output, whether that's emailing images to your lab or another doctor, or sharing images with a patient during a consultation. I only recommend utilizing professional industry tested tools and techniques. You know, as a professional photographer, I think it's important that I have equipment that's going to work well, work every time I need it to the same way without fail. And so I carry that same philosophy into teaching dental photography and intraoral photography. I want to recommend tools to you that are going to be ironclad, that have been out there in the industry. They're not one-off products, that are tested, tried and true, and are going to work for you every time. And my whole workflow is couched in terms of a color managed process. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Color management's pretty simple. It actually provides consistency and predictability in the image capture, viewing, and output process. So we capture images color accurately in the camera, and you can do that. I'm going to show you how to do that in this course. And then we can take those color accurate, properly exposed images and display them on a color accurate monitor. Not all monitors are color accurate or can display color accurately. So if you need to do that, I can show you how to do that. It's beyond the scope of this course, but I can certainly help you with that. And then to get images to print with accurate color, you have to use color management techniques to print from your computer. So there's a way to do that from the capture to viewing to the output process, but you have to implement this practice called color management in each step of the process. And we're going to do that in the image capture portion here in this course. So what are we going to talk about, and what am I going to cover? Well, the first thing you need to know about is once you capture the images, how do you manage them on your computer? So I'm going to talk about that very practice. How do you download the images to your computer? How do you put them in a place where you can always find them easily? And how do you rename the images? Because naming the images is very important to be able to find them and retrieve them when you need to and how you need to. And then I'm going to talk about backing up the images, because these are really digital assets, and you want to make sure that the images are backed up, so if your hard drive fails, you can reload those images onto your computer and you don't lose these digital assets. So that's the first part of the discussion. And then we're going to talk about image capture, and we're going to have several different discussions about that. We're going to start off by talking about the camera settings. So we're going to have a discussion about ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. We're going to talk about what you need to set those to on your camera. We're going to talk about the metering and focusing mode, because those are very important in how you capture images and being able to capture images easily in your camera. I'm going to talk about the flash mode, the different modes there are, the one I recommend you use, and what they're all about. So those are very, very important topics. We're going to cover those in depth, and then we're going to talk about how do you know that you've got all those things dialed into your camera right. How do you know that you're getting a proper exposure, so that you don't take a bunch of images, get them to your computer and go, uh-oh, something went wrong. We want to be able to know up front by taking a test image at the beginning of the process, just one test image, that we've got everything set on the camera right. So we're going to talk about this thing called a histogram. How do you read it? How do you use it? It's kind of like your camera's light meter, and it gives you feedback on how things are going. So I'm going to teach you how to use that. We're going to talk about white balance, because if you set your white balance properly, you can get accurate color in every image every time, no matter which operatory you're in. It doesn't matter. I'm going to show you how to get accurate color in every image. And I'm going to talk briefly about digital camera profiles. It's a way to take your color accuracy to another level if you need to do that. Then, after we've talked about all those settings, I'm going to show you exactly how to set them on your camera. So you'll know what the settings are, you'll know what they're about. I'll show you by showing user manual pages exactly how to do that step by step. So you'll see a section in the course for Nikon cameras and a section for Canon cameras, and I have the user manual pages from both, and you can step through setting your camera up so that you'll have it set up and ready for the next part of the course, which is a demonstration. So I will demonstrate how to make intraoral images and evaluate them at the end of the course. So I'll show you where I focus, why I focus there, how to get the right amount of depth of field, how to get the light in the right place, how to read the histogram from the images that I make. So you'll be able to apply what we've learned to making intraoral images. And you'll see me using at that point the Adobe Photoshop Lightroom software to do this. And I'll just show you briefly how to email images from the software so you'll know how easy that is to do. So that's what we're going to cover in Dental Photography Made Easy.